Hello and welcome to the in-news series of Drishti IAS. Today I bring sad news. Sad news from China, and concerns are there worldwide about the rising cases of COVID-19 in China and of course around the world, such as Japan, US, South Korea. Now, why I say it is a sad picture, because since the last 3 years, even if China was following zero COVID policy, the cases are still rising, and not only the cases are rising, deaths are also increasing. It is a concern for India as well, because we share a border with China, and we know we cannot believe what Chinese officials say because of the kind of polity that exists over here. Without any further ado, let us focus on these many topics that we are going to discuss step by step. So the news is that there is a surge of the COVID-19 infections in China in the past few weeks. Over 1 million deaths are expected to be occurring in the upcoming months. And China has reported 5 deaths for Monday, 2 for Sunday. This is the previous record. And now the death total toll is 5,242. It is just about 27, there are just about 2,700 new cases that were reported in Monday, although nearly 40,000 cases were being reported a couple of weeks ago. This graph shows us the grim picture that China is living. As you see how numbers were in 2021. Then since March 2022, China has been seeing a spike, and then the largest spike in the last couple of months came in December only. So this is what we are looking at. Now this new increase or upsurge in the number of cases are because of the recent curbing of the restrictions that China followed. This was basically a consequence of the protests that were going on in China, because people were very fed up with the kind of restrictions the police was doing. Apart from that, the economic issues that arose because of the lockdown also made people come in a frenzy together and protest against China. So that happened, and cases are spreading after that. The daily case count touched new records in the first 2 weeks of this month. Hospitals are overwhelmed. There is a shortage of flu medicines, and schools are moving back to the online mode. Moving ahead, China has been, since the last 3 years, followed extremely rigorous measures for COVID-19. It was the zero COVID policy. Here, the government employed various tools such as extremely restrictive measures to deal with any surge in cases. Even if there is an asymptomatic case, any suspected case, then they had to be mandatorily hospitalized. Small outbreaks, they triggered hard lockdowns, and suspected cases and all their contacts, they were kept in long isolation. Foreign travelers had to mandatorily go through 10 days of quarantine, and financial capital of Shanghai, it was entirely locked down in the month of March 2022. So that created a lot of problems, okay? Not only social, but also economical, more so economical. And when there is an economic vacuum, when there is an economic issue, of course, it will translate to social and political issues. So that is why during the protests, we saw how the residents of China wanted Xi Jinping to step down as the premier of China. See, this, of course, this policy was by and large successful. When it was implemented, not a lot of surge in cases were recorded, but now relaxation has again come up with such issues such as increase in cases. So the vast majority of China's population has not been infected by the virus as of yet. This is the problem. Why we are seeing surge in cases only in China right now. See, when you hamper any sort of infection, the people might not develop immunity to it. So how do we develop immunity? Either by getting infected or by having a vaccine, that is the artificial immunity. So the people there have not developed immunity because they were kept in isolation, and their immunity is, when it comes to COVID-19 strain, specifically the Omicron strain, it is very low. Apart from that, vaccines are also not known to prevent infection in very significant way. There is a problem with this variant, Omicron variant. It has managed to break through the strong defenses of the zero COVID strategy. Not only that, similar instances were seen in Hong Kong and South Korea in February. The highly transmitting variant that we are talking about, the BF.7. This is a strain of subvariant of Omicron. This is the dominant virus in China. Over 500 Omicron subvariants are in circulation right now, but BF.7 is not only unique to China. Okay, BF.7 is the name for BA.5.2, 0.1.7, which itself has evolved from the BA.5 subvariant. As I said, it is not unique to China. It accounts for over 5% of the cases in the US in October and over 7% of the cases in UK. Alright, moving ahead. See, right now vaccination is also not pretty good when it comes to, specifically when it comes to aged people. Those who are aged 80 plus, they have not been vaccinated as much they should be. Almost 3.5 billion doses of vaccines have been provided, but the penetration among the 80 plus population is pretty low. Two Chinese vaccines that are in use in China, that is of course Sinovac and Sinopharm, they are not very reliable. The effectiveness is questionable. There is uncertainty over the number of booster shots that they are administered. The residents of China are being administered because we do not have the official figures for it. Vaccines become increasingly less effective over time if booster shots are not, if people do not follow up with booster shots after 2 jabs that we had in India. If people don't get booster shots, of course, the immunity will lower down. Now moving ahead, of course, we will think about what is India doing. See, India has a meeting today in which the strategy to block incoming cases at the international and domestic airports will be discussed. It will also lay down guidelines for passengers who are traveling from abroad and consultation with experts on the current situation of COVID. Prevention protocols for the upcoming New Year celebration would also be considered because, of course, after the rise in cases, India has to be vigilant because we had a horrendous second wave. I mean, we cannot even imagine to be in the same phase ever again. It was so horrendous. There are samples of all COVID positive cases that should be sent daily to INSACOG, which is going to sequence the genome, trying to track if there is any variation in the strain so that we can also further develop better vaccines. The country has reported 129 fresh cases, infections over the last 24 hours. The number of active cases are 3,000 plus. There is 1 death that was recorded over the last 24 hours and the total toll is right now this much. Okay, let us move ahead and talk about, is there any reason for India to worry? See, not a cause for panic. India has hybrid immunity edge, it is said by NTAGI. So the thing is that, what is hybrid immunity? We develop immunity either through vaccination or infection. So what happens? India got largely infected. India also has been largely vaccinated. So we have two types of immunity right now. Now let's take 3 people for example over here, A, B and C. A has never been infected, also never received vaccination. B has been infected. Okay, so B has good immunity. C has been vaccinated but not infected. So what happens? If C gets infected, the person has been vaccinated. So what happens? The impacts of COVID are lessened. He might not be able to either infect B, or even if he does, then B has the immunity to fight the virus. So it might be possible that person B has become a barrier between C and A does not get infected. So this is also known as herd immunity. Some people might die in the process, some develop immunity so that they could be a barrier between the infected and the not infected. This was also a lot talked about in the last few years with respect to India. Now, as there is right now no cause for worry, but still, this is my personal opinion that please do wear mask, do wash your hands, do sanitize your hands whenever you are dealing with the public places, because prevention is better than cure. And right now we do need to follow all the COVID appropriate protocols because we do not need our population to go through over and over again with the same terrible past that we went through. So I will attach the question in the comment segment for you to answer. Let me take the names of those students who have answered my last question correctly. Stay with me a moment. Those of you who have not answered the last question, you can move ahead and do comment in the comment section the correct answer so that I can announce your name in the next segment. So I guess the last question was not answered because the question got attached to the segment pretty late. But not an issue. We can do one thing. Go to the link I will set in the description box. I will give you in the description box, and you can answer that question as well and the current question as well for me to take your names in the next segment. Alright. So thank you so much for watching. Stay updated and stay engaged.